I got interested in this topic partly because as I started reading more about the Estado de India, it became obvious to me that a major theme in the historiography was movement of people, movement of goods and commodities being some of the main items that move in the Portuguese Estado. And A.J.R. Russell Wood has a famous saying that Portuguese, imperial power was a world on the move. And what I noticed in reading this literature is that it was a very gendered world on the move. The people who were moving were pretty much all men, and I just wondered sort of where are the women? What are they doing? And I decided that in order to answer that question in the ways that I wanted to, legal materials might be a good source to provide another perspective. And legal materials had not really been looked at from a medical standpoint before. Generally, the texts that have been looked at in the medical historiography has been materia medica, so works like Garcia de Orta's Colloquies on the Drugs and Simples of India, very famous text that's a collection of different materia medica plants and animals of India that have medicinal properties. And that does contain some information about women and their medical practices, but not a ton. And most of it's very much directed at a male audience. So I thought looking at Inquisition cases would offer a different perspective. And that's kind of what set me down the road towards looking specifically at Inquisition cases. So the main source is the case of Manuel Pessoa, and that case is interesting because it includes the medical testimony of these two Indian midwives. So I look particularly at women's medical testimony in this case, including the midwives, but also the testimony of Maria das Neves, who's the young woman who is sodomized by her husband, as well as testimony by her female relatives, who also provide medical testimony, mostly testimony concerning the state of Maria's body after she has been sodomized by her husband. In addition to the case of Manuel Pessoa, I also provide context by looking at a selection of case summaries held in the Repertorio, which is an inventory of cases held between the founding of the Goan Tribunal in 1561 and 1623 when the Repertorio was collated. And among these case summaries, there are 351 that include cases of illicit gentile healing. And I look particularly at these cases, in particular cases involving women, as a way to contextualize Manuel Pessoa's case and to reveal a little bit more about other relationships between the inquisitors and indigenous healers, particularly women and their clients. The things that seem like they should have surprised me, part of my paper, I want to say that they need to stop surprising us. For example, the fact that the case of Manuel Pessoa involves a lot of women who are very well versed in the legal system, the inquisitorial legal system in Goa, and they're able to use it to their advantage. This is something that scholars have begun commenting on in greater numbers in early modern Europe and in early modern sort of Spanish America and the Anglophone colonies in the Americas. And I think at this point it needs to stop being a surprising thing, and my paper is kind of part of that trend. The fact that there are Indian midwives testifying as witnesses before the Inquisition, I think that is a little bit more surprising. Part of my paper's argument is that the particular gender economy of Goa makes it less surprising than we might think, but I think it is still an unusual situation, and this case is a lucky one to come across because it provides a little insight into the relationships between women that wouldn't normally be visible to us in other kinds of sources. If there was one thing that surprised me in the process of researching this paper, it's how little secondary literature there is on the Goan Inquisition and on women healing in the Estado and just in Portugal in general. So if there is a takeaway, it's that I think the assumption has been that the sources are too thin on the ground to do good work about medicine in the Estado outside like materia medica, which has been the traditional focus of research about the Portuguese Empire in India. And I hope that this work sort of opens the door to there being actually more rich sources about particularly women's medical traditions in the Estado than we might think, given the sources that survive. And I was also surprised in researching this paper how little there is on midwifery and women's medicine in Portugal. I had thought that there would be more secondary literature to draw on, and there really isn't all that much. And so that's another sort of takeaway that I'm just hoping will spur more work.